Cool.
Hi, we have Dan. Dan is the owner of Silicon Alley Consulting. He went from 30,000. He built another company before, helped build another company from they were generating 30,000 in revenue to 1.6 million in less than 24 months. He can all say that he did that part of it. And 25 strategic partnerships with an industry he had no clue about. And the company ended up being acquired in 3 years. And now he's on a mission to help small business owners in specific verticals, how to scale their market going from any revenue from 30,000, how do you get to millions in a short amount of time? Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Excited to be here. So, should I share my screen for the?
Yes.
Let's see. Share. Here we go. Perfect. Right. Cool. Cool. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, yeah, this is going to be a presentation on how you can maximize your sales as a startup. And all right, there's a little bit of my background. Tanya already covered 6 years of startup experience, head of sales at 2 different startups, and yeah, all that fun stuff. So let's go ahead and go right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about the fundamentals of sales that you need to know as a founder of a startup. Okay, it's extremely important. There's a lot of founders, especially if they have a technical background or a non-sales background, they will sometimes confuse these different things. So the first thing is the difference between marketing and sales. A lot of people confuse marketing and sales, especially if they come from a background that's outside of revenue generating skills. So marketing is about creating awareness and it's about generating leads. So more specifically, things like branding, which is just an identity of an entity or a person, and positioning that in the minds of your prospects. That's marketing. Generating leads, which means going from people being strangers to being potential prospects that can purchase your product or service, is marketing. Sales is the rest of the funnel, which is where you turn those leads into closed customers. That means people who actually take out their credit card, take out their cash, and they pay you and your company money. That is selling. Selling is securing the deal, securing the money, servicing the client, making sure they get that product or service in their hand. So that's the first thing that's extremely really important to understand the difference. Those are two different things. However, they should be, especially in an early stage business, be working very closely together. Right? A lot of startups like to have, they have marketing, sales, not only as separate departments, but literally not even communicating to each other, which is a disaster because you want to make sure that, the lead generating and positioning activities are aligned with sales, because salespeople are also out in the field and they're talking to the actual customers. So they have a better idea of the psychology and the profile of the customers than anybody in an office, right? And second thing is, I'm saying, that sales is not about convincing people, all right? Movies do a terrible portrayal of sales, like Wolf of Wall Street or, The Boiler Room, or any of these movies. All that stuff is Hollywood trash. It's not actual reality. In reality, great salespeople are great sifters. They know how to ask quality questions to identify, one, if a person has a need and wants for the product or service, and to make sure that they're qualified, they have the time, money, and desire, and that they're spending their time on the right people. They don't chase people around. Great salespeople don't chase people. They identify potential people, and they help those people make a decision to move forward with their product or service, right? So they are helping people with making decisions. They're more so, the best salespeople are more so advisors and more so seen as trusted advisors, consultants for their customers. And that's why their customers come back to them and keep buying from them, especially in commoditized businesses, okay? So the next thing is that you need to understand is that sales cures everything. Let's say you're like, oh man, I need to hire more people. Or, we need to grow the business, or we need to maybe expand this department or do whatever. Sales will cure that. Why? Because sales brings in money. And money is the foundation of allowing you to grow your business. So don't neglect sales. Understand the importance of it and understand its role in your company. And do your best to not confuse it with sales, with marketing, I should say, and really understand that's the core foundation of your business is cash flow, cash coming in that you can use to grow the business. So that's the fundamentals of sales that you need to know as a founder from the jump. That's extremely important. All right, so when we go to the next slide, right? So we're talking about the elevator pitch. This is the first exercise, and elevator pitch is really important because It helps you, it's a combination in the sense of marketing because you're positioning yourself in the mind of whoever you're communicating to, but it's also what's going to allow you to start the sales process, right? So it's important that you're really clear about who it is that you help, okay, and what it is that you do for them. What is the outcome you're going to create for them? So this is an example of a general template that you can use for most businesses, especially service-based businesses, but in a lot of ways, technically any business, and that is that we help your target audience. This is a very specific group of people, not everyone, because your startup can't help everyone. That's just the reality. A lot of people go, oh, well, our product is great for everybody, but odds are it's not, because it's not made for everybody. It's made ideally for a specific group of people who strongly need and want that product or service, okay? So we help target audience who are present situation means what they're currently going through. Unique selling proposition means what you uniquely do. Okay, and I'm going to give an example here in a second of what these look like, both for service and for product-based business, or I should say B2B and consumer-based business. So unique selling proposition so they can get their unique value proposition. That's the outcome that they're going to get. You know, is it going to be double revenue? Is it going to be they lose weight? Is it going to be they're happier, measurably happier and have a higher quality of life? What exactly is it? So let's go ahead and go into an example. I'm going to give you guys 2 examples here. And first example here is, let's move this actually out of the way. Here we go. So the first example is a B2B example. This is one that I was using for my consultancy initially, which is we help consumer electronics startups. So it's a very specific audience, multiply their revenue. Okay, you can just say double, triple the revenue, create sales strategy, and establish major partnerships so they can achieve global sales distribution and scale. So who we are is clear, who we help is clear, what kind of outcomes we create for that specific audience is clear, and it takes less than 15 seconds to communicate that. An elevator pitch should never be longer than 30 seconds. It's something that you can use at any event, at any time. Anytime you meet people who you can potentially recruit for your company, sell to, do whatever, you want to have a consistent theme of what you're about. Because if you have different people in your company saying different things, it confuses people. So you want to make sure that it's consistent across the board. The second example is a B2C, so this is business to consumer example, and we're just going to call this business Bob's Gym, right? So Bob's Gym, we help single dads who are looking to lose weight have a professional caretaker, keep their kids safe in the gym while they work out so they can achieve their fitness goals. This is an extremely specific proposition so that when someone hears this, if they're a dad who has a kid, they're a single dad, and they're trying to get in shape, they're like, oh, wow, that resonates with me. I feel that's something that sounds valuable to me. And if they're not, they'll be like, oh, whatever. It'll deflect on them. So you want to be able to sift by using this elevator pitch. And it's extremely important that early on in your business, you have an elevator pitch, especially when you're a startup and are ready to adapt as you get feedback from the marketplace. And the best way to get feedback, my friends, is to go out in the field and talk to your potential customers as soon as possible, even before you even have your product or service built. Okay, just want to get out there. So, all right. So now we're going to talk about startup sales versus corporate sales. So there is a distinct difference between sales and sales organizations and needs for a startup than there is for a corporation. And as a startup founder, it's extremely important you understand these things for a multitude of reasons. One, because if you hire a corporate person to help you build startup sales, they will not know what to do because they're used to having all the systems and things given to them in position. If you hire a startup person to help build corporate sales, they will also likely struggle because they don't have experience with that as well. So what is the difference between these two? Startup is an unknown brand. No one knows who you are. And, people aren't gonna be like, oh, like Facebook or Google or these big companies. There's social proof associated with those. That means human beings see, oh, other human beings have used that service or that product on mass scale. Therefore, it must be a reasonable and good thing to do. You don't have that as a startup. People are looking at you like, I don't know. You're unfamiliar. And that goes against the grain. So initially, you're going to have to be the underdog. Second is you have an unclear product market fit, which means you're trying to figure out who your ideal audience is. You may have to adjust your messaging. You may have to adjust your positioning in the beginning. And you also are still developing an understanding of your customers because maybe you have little to no customers and you're trying to identify who your early adopters are and where you can go from there. That's the startup world. Another thing is there's little to no process, systems, or partnerships in place that allow for scale. So all the things that a lot of people may sometimes take for granted in big companies are not there. There's no support. There's no one saying, hey, man, you like, hey, good job. It's a cold, harsh world where every day you get up and you have to decide what you're going to do on your own and take action, okay? And then report back usually directly to the CEO or the owner of the company early on, which is a very different environment. So there's literally no sales team or leads to lean on. So you don't have a sales team that can help you with, usually in big organizations, there's multiple roles for sales teams. There'll be someone, there may be someone who just focuses on lead generation and marketing side, and then someone who qualifies those leads, someone who closes the leads, and then someone who manages the accounts, like an account manager. You don't have that in startup world. You're going to be doing everything, right? And there's no leads usually coming in either. So that means you're going to have to learn a full stack of skill sets in order to make results happen that you wouldn't have to have otherwise in non-startup world. So what the type of person you're going to want, or people you're going to want in an initial startup organization for your sales, are people who are proactive, who are agile, who are creative and hardworking. They take action even if they're not giving clear instructions. They just start doing stuff and figuring it out. And they're not afraid to fail. They have a thick skin, they're resilient, and essentially they're able to handle the experimentation phase. Okay, so this person would operate more so like, these initial people, I should say, would operate more so as an ambassador or architect. And initially, with a startup, you're going to actually want to hire salespeople first, not a head of sales first. You want to hire some salespeople first, ideally at least 2, so they can compete, and you could also compare the process. Have a control group, right? And then later on, once you have maybe 10 sales rep or more, then you can hire a sales manager to start coming in, or head of sales start coming in and help you build out that department. So let's go into corporate sales. So what makes corporate sales different than startup sales? In corporate sales, you have an established brand. People know who you are. Maybe it's not everyone, but it's enough of a sizable group where you have quote unquote clout, you have quote unquote social proof, you have quote unquote the ability to say, hey, I work at this big company. And people go, oh, well, we automatically trust this company, or trust what it's about because we see other quote unquote reasonable people are using the product or service. That's what that is. Plenty of leads coming in. They're coming in because they heard about you on TV or the internet and ads and Facebook or wherever. There's millions of dollars multi-million-dollar marketing engines generating leads for these businesses that also have word of mouth working for them, bringing lots of leads, which is great. It's great. It's a great day for salespeople. It's a great day for business, and that's an advantage that they have. Another thing is they have an internal sales team. They already have an established sales team, likely with management in place, procedures and systems, partnerships, all these things in place that are already proven and tested and have gotten to the point where they can now scale up their business. Okay, and all these things can be leveraged, and the skill set needed to take this environment, of growth and get it to the next level is different than what's needed to get something from 0 to 1. All right. So essentially, someone who's trying to come from 5 million to 10 million plus is going to have a different skill set. And, it's much easier to get consistent sales, and usually growth is more stagnant. So the upside is, yes, it's easier to get sales, it's easier to keep growing, but the growth becomes much more stagnant and not as, it's not going to be 5x, 6x, 7x revenue growth years once you get corporate. So it's important you understand the difference. So if someone is like, hey, I worked at 10 years at Salesforce as a sales manager, they may be a great fit for once you're post Series A, once you're doing over $5 million a year to come in and help you management, but not before that. Cool. So let's go on to the next thing. Creating your initial sales model. Let's talk about building a sales model. That means deciding your sales channels and how you want to approach revenue generation for your business. And this is going to vary depending on whether or not you have a product-based business or a service-based business. What I'm about to share with you right now is mostly oriented towards product-based businesses, but there are multiple things in this that can also be used for service-based businesses, which I'll touch on here in a second. So e-commerce is usually the best way to start. If you have a product-based business, you could start selling face-to-face, and that works to some extent, but in reality isn't going to be scalable at all, and it gives you zero leverage. Having an e-commerce website with Shopify is usually the best option. You have a website, and then from there, once you get to about $30,000 a month or more, you could start focusing on online resellers. So that means other e-commerce websites that sell to a niche audience that correlates with your audience, where you could say, hey, can you list my product in the website, and I'll give you 10, 20% as a drop shipper, which means all you got to do is secure the order and we will ship it from our fulfillment center directly to the customer. Boom. You now you can expand the targeted traffic that's coming to your offering and increase your sales revenue without a significant amount of upfront investment in capital. It does not cost a lot of money to set up an e-commerce store. after you've set up an e-commerce store and you have some online resellers, then that's when you're going to start looking at, you're going to want to start looking at marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Etsy. Some people just jump straight to Amazon. Why would I recommend this? Because it's another company's platform controlling your business's destiny. All right. And if you haven't figured out a way to build your own brand, your own equity for your website to where you have a place where people can go, then Amazon anytime can just pull your whole business from under with a carpet. But that's why you want to, then go to marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Etsy. I would recommend Amazon. Then once you've done that, you can start looking at direct sales. This means third-party sales representatives. These are called sales contractors. They come in the form of contractors, consultants, freelance consultants, come in and they have pre-established networks and skills to help you get into more sales channels, okay, like retail networks, okay? And they also allow you to test some different sales hypotheses you have. In the early stage, you as the CEO, as a founder, should be the first salesperson. You should be closing the first couple big deals, etc. And then you can start experimenting with some different processes and ideas and getting advice on how to build these processes from these experienced sales third-party people, okay? And they help you get next into retail, build a retail network, which is where you start looking at physical stores. Now, the thing with physical stores, they take a bigger margin. On average, physical stores are going to take anywhere from 25 to 50%. More realistically, it's going to be 30 to 50%. And the bigger the retailer, like a Best Buy or Target, the bigger percentage they're going to want. Why? Because if they don't have a margin to make profit, it makes zero sense for them to sell your product. So that means you have to consider your profit margin when growing these channels, because if you don't have enough margin in your product, then you can't even get into retail stores. All right, so physical stores, the good news is they also have e-commerce websites. 90% of all retail sales, which includes, including e-commerce and all that, 90% of those come from brick and mortar retail still as of 2019. So you don't want to underestimate the value of retail. It's something that works, but you got to make sure the audience is a fit, the margins are a fit, and that you have the production capabilities to meet the needs of bulk orders that these retailers will be making. This is great for cash flow because you can do 10, 50, even $100,000 deals like that and get paid. They want to pay you net 60, push for net 30. Put for at least net 45. But at the end of the day, you'll get lump sums of cash that can help you grow your business, and you'll be positioned in the marketplace better as well. And then the next level, once you have, retail network set up, you have a system set up where you have proof of concept with some of these retailers, then you're going to want to start looking at distributors. So distributors are people who buy your product in bulk. Okay, they buy your product in bulk, and then they take this product, that they bought in bulk, and they make on average about 10 to 11% margin on it by selling it to retail stores, to online resellers. So what they ever helpful with doing is they have fulfillment centers where they can hold your product, and they have a network that they can then of resellers that they can then sell to. And the deals are even bigger with distributors. You can do 100K, 200K, even $2 million deals with distributors. And this is also great for cash flow and positioning. Beautiful thing is you could start with outside distributors, and then after 5 years, build your own distribution facilities in an organization in the future. And then once you have all these things set up, you can start looking at really growing your internal sales team. That means going from maybe 5 to 10 sales reps and then bringing in a head of sales who can help you build out that department into maybe more people, build an enterprise side of your sales. So that means people who sell to corporate clients in bulk for your product. If you're a service-based business, the main difference is going to be you don't need to use a lot of these different sales channels. If you're a service-based business, you're just going to want to focus on your audience and selling to them and finding different ways to do that online and offline in a way that's sustainable. So that's how you create your initial sales model. Now let's talk about something where a lot of people get confused, and that is recruiting and compensating a sales team. All right. So I want to talk about specifically for startups. What are the traits that you're going to want to look for when you're recruiting salespeople? All right. So you're going to want to look for people who are ambitious and seeking growth. All right. That means that they desire growth. They're okay with being thrown in the jungle and fighting. All right. They need to have some sort of tenacity and some sort of drive, because the reality is startup world is very hard. It's a harsh land where most people fail. And they need to have these traits. They also need to be creative and agile. They need to be able to create solutions when there is no solution currently present or available. And they need to have the agility to navigate and to be able to rapidly adapt to their environment and not get too fixed in their ways. All right. They also need to have a leadership potential. They need to have the potential and the ability to potentially lead a team and grow a team, because odds are, if they're some of your first sales hire, sales hires, they will become eventually a leader in your company, ideally a sales leader, maybe even beyond that. Maybe one day they could become CEO. But ideally, they're going to have you want them to have that leadership potential or even ability earlier on, right? So other things to include emotional intelligence, the ability to be resilient. These are the core traits. Now, compensation. How do you pay them? How do you pay a startup salesperson? Those are also a lot of people get confused. If it's a startup and you have less than 20 people, odds are you're going to be giving some equity on top of the compensation I'm about to share with you now. You're going to want to consider that in the overall compensation plan as well. But the main ways that you compensate startup salespeople is you pay them base plus commission. And the base usually is going to be just enough to survive off of. Why? Because first of all, if you're a startup, also you don't have an insane amount of money. And secondly, well, they basically need to show that they can, produce revenue and be cost effective for your business. And that's where the commission comes in. So the commission, you could be more generous than you would be in a bigger company. And that's just a percentage of the sales revenue that they generate. It's that simple. And that you calculate based on your industry and based on your specific business model. Now, base plus bonus is more for bigger startups and going into almost the corporate world. A bonus is when certain quotas or targets are hit, and then a fixed amount of money is then given to that person. The reason why it's more set up like that in bigger startups companies is because there's multiple people working on the deals, etc. It's more of a group effort. Commission only is the best for third-party, outside representatives, outside salespeople for your company. These are people who are not employees of your company, they're contractors. You tell them the outcome you want and they figure out the rest. You can't tell them what to do or how to do it. You just tell them the outcome you want and you pay them commission only, purely performance. And those are the three most ideal ways. If you're a startup, the best way is usually base plus commission for internal and commission only for outside people, unless they're a consultant who can also give you some valuable information and knowledge as well, or some other value add aside from closing deals. So that's how you recruit and compensate a sales team as a startup. And then key sales performance metrics. So let's talk about how do you measure the performance of your sales organization as a startup? What are the key things you should be focused on? First thing is you need to be focused on the leads you're generating monthly. This is the foundational of the cash flow of your business. If you have no leads coming in, you have no deals being closed. If you have no deals being closed, no cash is coming in. So you got to calculate how many leads are being generated. That means people who are potentially can buy your product or service, and that means you have their name and their some sort of contact information, email, phone number, where to reach them. Then how many of those leads are being qualified? That means how many of them have the time, money, and desire, to actually move forward for your product or service. And the easiest way to qualify them is having a form in your website or having some sort of very quick call that a sales representative, someone can do to quickly vet that person. Because if you spend your time on unqualified leads, you're actually costing your business money. So this is the second thing. The third thing is proposals or presentations sent. Even for consumer product businesses is relevant, because if you sell to retailers, whatever, that's B2B sales, and you need to put together some sort of materials that are going to be able to help you not only build credibility, but help move the sale forward. Third-party materials, because the reality is that that basically you want to let the tools do the selling. Whatever comes out of your mouth is never going to be as effective as a third-party person or piece of material is going to be more effective. Okay, like it's never going to be more effective than that, because it's just a psychological component. You want to have those materials ready, and you want to make sure that you're calculating, all right, how many actual proposals for business or presentations that lead to the actual sale have been sent out to these qualified leads? What is the number, right? The next thing is the lead conversion rate. Okay, now you've got to the point where you see, okay, you're generating leads, you're qualifying them, and you're sending out these presentations, proposals. How many of them are actually being converted into customers? What is the percentage? Right? What is the percentage? The next thing is the sales cycle length. How long does it take from before the prospect or the lead even knows that you exist to them actually paying you money, wiring you the money with their card or however they pay? How long does that take? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? For smaller products and services, it'll be shorter usually. But if it's a bigger deals, B2B services, more complex sales, it'll usually be longer, maybe weeks or even months. You want to have an idea. What is the average length? How long does it take? 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever. And then from there, you're going to want to look at how much revenue are you generating monthly, right? You should also be tracking this in other ways, weekly to whatever, but monthly is the core foundation. Like how much revenue is coming in, right? How much money is coming in, top line. And then average deal size, okay? Average deal size means how big is the average deal that's being closed? Because you can have one sales rep who closes only 10 deals a year and one sales rep who closes 100 deals a year, but the one who's closing 10 deals a year may be bringing in more revenue than the guy who closes 100 deals. Why? Because of the deal size. What is the average deal size? And you can track this not only for your company, but also for individual reps and teams as well. Of course, you're going to also be tracking profitability and all that other stuff, but this is just mainly key sales performance metrics that you need to be tracking. Okay. Now, okay, here we go. So exercise 2, I'm talking about designing your 90-day sprint. So what is a 90-day sprint? A 90-day sprint is a concentrated effort where, this can vary from anything from 6 days a week, 16 hours a week, to 5 days a week, 10 hours, 6 days a week, 16 hours a day, to 5 days a week, 10 hours a day, whatever, depending on the culture, how you want to build your company, in which you want to rapidly grow revenue that's coming into your business. So you ask yourself, okay, what is your 90-day revenue target? Let's say you're doing $100,000 a year or $500,000 a year as a startup. You want to get to double that, right? Within 90 days, right? Maybe you have a software as a service. Maybe you have something recurring, or maybe you have some sort of product. You have to figure out what is the number that you need to get to in the next 90 days to do that. All right. And then if you've been tracking all the metrics I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to more or less guess how many leads do you need to hit that target. How many leads would you need to hit the target, all right? So obviously you're gonna have a certain amount of leads that come in, a certain amount of it on average are qualified, and this gives you an idea of more or less how many deals are closed out of those leads, right? So then from there, you're gonna have to break down what is the daily activity needed. If you break down that 90-day goal, you could break it down into smaller pieces and you'll figure out, okay, if we need to reach out to 1,000 leads per rep in the next 90 days, and that'll get us to double the revenue, okay, so each day it'll be, let's say, approximately like 10 leads per day that are being qualified per rep. That's an example of daily activity. And out of those 10, they close 2 whatever deals per day on average, right? So daily number of referrals, cold calls, emails, qualified presentations, all these things need to be tracked down to the minutia. So be specific, use numbers, and you can use a 90-day sprint to rapidly grow your business. Okay, especially if you already have some customers and you have some system. You should only do a 90-day sprint after you have some initial customer base and initial metrics that you can use to actually project what your 90-day sprint should look like. And then that's when you double down if you want to take it to the next level. This is a very powerful and effective method for startups and small businesses. Okay, so I want to also mention why sales needs to work with other departments, why you absolutely need to have your sales team in communication and in conjunction with your product and R&D team, your marketing, your customer service and support. I'm going to show you a very brief story of an example. When I first started at Mural, a company I took from 30,000 to over 1.6 million that I added on less than 24 months, one of the first things I did is I talked to 30 of our initial customers. One of them actually happened to be the VP of engineering at Hewlett Packard, who actually helped me come up with a product idea that we've created and now sell in stores like Best Buy and all that other stuff. So basically, I talked to different customers. I asked them questions like, how did you discover us? What made you want to actually purchase our product? And this is called customer interviews. This is research. This gives you an idea of you can use, for example, product and R&Ds. One of the things that happened is I'm on the phone and a few people mentioned me, man, it'd be really great. The Mural's a great product, but it's just so heavy. It's like 20 pounds. And when I want to turn it horizontally to put my landscape images, I have to dismount it from the wall and remount it. It'd be amazing if they had some sort of product, like something that could maybe rotate it. And then we got the idea for the rotatable wall mount, right? The rotatable wall mount, we didn't act on so much later, but we got that idea and we eventually turned that into a physical product that we now sell as an accessory. That's product, that's research and development. Salespeople are in the front lines. Tap into their conversations, tap into the research. Make that a habit, make that a process as part of your business. Marketing is, as I mentioned, about positioning your product or service, your company. Salespeople are going out in the field and they're testing the marketing messages. They're seeing on the faces and then the phones and in the meetings how people are responding and reacting to that messaging and to that marketing. And they're great people to go to and get feedback from how that marketing is working. Online marketing will give you feedback because now we have tools that give you that feedback. But in the field, there's still not tools that completely measure every single thing that goes on out there. So tap into your salespeople for marketing as well. And then customer service and support. Salespeople are also going to be hearing complaints or other things from customers that give you an idea of what you need to work on in terms of both your customer service and your offerings, and then how you're supporting your customer, how their journey is. All right. So it's important that you don't just have your salespeople out there compartmentalized and isolated just doing sales, but also having some sort of regular communication, at least monthly, with these other departments so that information can be transferred to them and maximize you can maximize their efforts as salespeople. All right. So lastly, I just want to cover some mistakes to avoid and what to focus on as you scale. So the mistakes you're going to want to avoid is you don't want to be hiring based on resume versus mindset and skill set. People can look good on paper, but how they think and what they can actually do can only be proven one way, by them doing it. And one of the best things you could do is don't even start by interviewing people. Start by testing people, seeing their ability. Then after they've proven they could do something, then interview them. That's one of the best methods you can use. So don't just hire, if they got their MBA from Yale, whatever, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean they know how to close a deal. You need to see their track record. What have they done? What have they actually done? And you're going to want to hire based on that, especially as a startup, because you cannot afford to hire someone who needs to learn on the job. You need to hire someone who at least has some experience and or can learn extremely quickly. All right. Second thing is you want to avoid not understanding how to compensate your salespeople, because if you don't compensate your salespeople properly, if you make them upset, they will leave. Especially the top producers, they will leave and get paid more somewhere else. So you want to make sure you understand you're properly motivating them and you're aligning their compensation with your company's growth goals. And the third is fear of investing into growth and expansion. If you're afraid to invest in your salespeople and their training and the growth and expansion of your company, you will not grow, because you need to be willing to put investment into your sales so that you can bring in more revenue. In the long term, it pays off. In the short term, yes, it's scary, but you need to overcome that. And that's a mistake that a lot of startup founders make. What you should focus on is you should focus on finding quality people who have leadership potential. Okay. The second thing you should focus on is you should focus on encouraging experiments, process creation, and results. Why experiments? Because it's a startup. You need experiments. Process creation because you have no processes, and results because you need results to grow the company. And you want to focus on your growth and expansion. So that means ensure the departments are aligned, as I mentioned before, and maximize everything that your salespeople are doing, and focus on not just growing marginally 10%, but how can you double, triple, quadruple revenue year over year over year. Okay. So with that, my friends, that is everything for the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach me directly at my email or my phone. That's also my LinkedIn as well. I really appreciate you all tuning in. And that wraps up this presentation.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. Thank you.